I have a very interesting project for you today, and this is because one of my customers or friend has brought to me a tree that is interesting in that it was created partly by me on a workshop for one of my good customers who has since gone back to America. This gentleman who owned it was an American executive, top executive with a very important firm, and when he had to go back to America, he couldn't take trees back. As you know, taking trees back to America and Australia are particularly difficult. If you were to take a tree back to America, you have to wash every grain of soil off the roots and bare root the tree, put it in sphagnum moss, and then it has to be in quarantine in America for God knows how long, maybe 6 months or a year. And the chances of the trees surviving are not that great. So I was told. I don't know what the current regulations are. So he asked me if I wanted to buy it back, because he did 2 workshops with me. He did this workshop when we created from just a great big bush. This, by the way, is a San Jose juniper. We grow lots of these in our fields. So he made this, must be about 10 or 15 years ago, and he came to me also on the final occasion, which was just during the pandemic, I think 2021, and then last year, I think more than a year ago, he had to go back to America, and he discovered that taking it back to America was not really a feasible option. So he sold it on eBay. Now, things come in full circles. It's strange in life what happens. One of my good friends saw this tree on eBay, so he went to buy it, but he didn't know that this was my tree. But as soon as he saw it, he said that he recognized this as one of my trees that I had worked on. Just shows people do recognize what I do. So he said, "Is that Peter Chan's tree?" And he said, "How do you know?" He said, "I recognize it." So that is, to cut a long story short, how my client, present client, ended up with this tree. So that's a story in itself. Now, why is it here? It is here because Shomu, my good friend, went to the K2 Expo or exhibition in the UK back in April, which is last month, and he bought this very lovely pot. Of course, now throughout the Western world, in UK, America, Germany, Czechoslovakia, there are so many very good potters. And this was made by the British potter, and he liked it so much, he decided to buy it. Or at least his wife thought it was very good, so he decided to buy it. So if you come close, it's a very rugged, primitive pot with a beautiful dragon attached to the side. So it's like a dragon pot. And so he thought that it's a lovely pot, let me put a tree in it. Now, when you buy pots, especially pots which are out of the ordinary, this is quite a distinct pot. You can't put any old tree in it. Let me just show you what I mean. If I were to put a nice red maple in that pot, how would that fit? I mean, that wouldn't be right at all, you know. This is a rugged pot, and it needs a rugged tree. So if you were to put that beautiful maple, although it is a pot, you could certainly grow that tree in that pot, but would it look right? It would not look right in the least, you know. It would be absolutely out of character with that tree. So we have to look for an evergreen. We have so many trees, so let's look at what are feasible options. Now, I have some Japanese white pines. White pine is a fairly rugged tree. Will it fit? You're getting close, better than a maple, and it has to lean in the right way. Let me cut the wire off and see if I can fit it in. We're getting close. What we call finding the perfect match. Like anything in life, finding the perfect match is very, very difficult. I'm not saying impossible, but it is very difficult. So not only are we trying to match the tree with the pot, we're trying to find the right tree, right shape, right character for the character of this pot. So this is a pine, but I still don't think it is somehow right to use this tree in this pot. Getting near enough, but certainly not the right tree for that pot. So that is the Japanese white pine or the 5-needle pine. Let's see if we find out another shape would fit the bill. Now this is another tree. It's all by trial and error. Unless you try, you will never know. It has to slant in the right way. It has to have the right look. It's very much like human beings, isn't it? Everyone is different. To find the right match, either the right match for your marriage or the right match for your job, is quite a job. It has to match perfectly. If it doesn't match, then it won't work. So there's a lot of trial and error involved. And of course, at this time of the year, I daren't do anything like repotting. I'm just going to put it in with no teasing of the roots. You could get away with it if you had no other tree. At least this branch is leaning this side, and the pine has got some form of a rugged character, so that is getting close to it. So you can see how difficult it is to match the tree to the pot. Okay, now let us look one step further and get back to this San Jose Juniper. San Jose Juniper belongs to my friend Shomu, and we can try and get it in that pot. I've taken it out. So junipers seem to be good subjects for rugged looking pots, because junipers are by their very nature very rugged, strong type of tree. Okay, let's try and put it in this pot and see what happens. Okay, if we put this tree in the pot, luckily the root ball fits the pot. It is actually not a bad match. The tree is of the right size. It's very rugged looking, but there is still something not quite right with this tree. Now the beauty of this pot, if you look at it closely, is in its very rugged nature. And that dragon here is going to be hidden with these low branches. So although that tree is a possibility, it is hiding some of the beauty of that pot. But because this is the nearest match I can find, and it's also my dear friend's tree, we can do something about it. So if these branches are low, I think the solution is to get rid of the low branches. Do you think I can get rid of them? All right, he nods his head and says yes. Okay, so let us see what happens if I get rid of this branch. I will make some gins with it because junipers lend themselves to gin effects. So let us see if I can make a gin of a slightly different length. So with that tree, maybe make a gin of this length. Now that is not all, there's still some low branches. This one, I think this should also come out. That should also come out. The way the tree leans is also very nice. It's almost made for this tree. But that branch also seems to be very, very low. So if it is low, off it comes, and we will probably make gin with that branch. And then I think this branch is also in the way. I'll try and shorten it a little bit rather than get rid of it. That's a halfway house. I haven't removed it completely. And then try the famous handkerchief trick. There's a back branch there. If we put the paper with or without?
Without.
So, you see, another low branch goes. So now I would say that pot and the tree are a good match. That is going to be the front of the tree. And when this tree is thinned a little bit, it should be a very good match. So, because the dragon is on this side, I don't think the tree can lean over that side. It has to lean this side. So that is given. Certain things you can't change. So that is given. So I think this tree is still a bit too dense. You will have to do some pruning. I don't want to deny you the pleasure of doing the pruning, but you need to thin it a little bit. So by doing that, just by removing this amount of foliage, branches, 3 branches we removed, I think this is a good match. So another thing which struck me is that this front branch, of course when it was made, it was appropriate at the time, but this front branch now seems to be very, very dense. Let me just thin it a little bit. It is looking far too dense. That made it a bit lighter. So it's opened it out even more. So you can see the beauty of the line, very rugged line, rugged gins, and a rugged pot. So all those factors make this a suitable pot for this tree, or this tree is suitable for this pot. And if you wanted to do even more dramatic things, you can open up the front and have a shari to connect all these gins, and that would look very nice. So this is a quick lesson in finding the right tree to match the pot. Unfortunately, the owner had both, and we are very lucky that we were able to match this tree to this pot. So there you go.